the state. The first is from the national capital, where anti-Modi posters that said Modi Hatao, Desh Bachao were spread across Delhi. And as a result of that, over 100 FIRs have been lodged over this one poster. Let's tell you about the other image they were showing you from Tamil Nadu, where a critic of the budget that was presented by the state government yesterday was booked, has been taken into custody. And the third image is from Karnataka, of a Kannada actor, Chetan Kumar, being arrested for a tweet that he put out against Hindutva. These three instances we're going to be telling you about in detail and asking that pertinent question of whether the states in each of these cases has overreacted. Hello and welcome. You're watching 6 p.m. Prime. I'm Akshita Nandagopal. We're getting you all the latest on that story and much more. Let's begin with the headlines. After India cuts security outside UK envoy home in Delhi, cops deployed outside Indian mission in London ahead of the Khalistani protest. Cops on trail of escaped vehicles and disguises as hunt for fugitive Amritpal continues for over 99 hours. Cops grill his wife Kirandeep at his residence. Punjab Netas compete to appease Khalistanis. Akalis pledge legal help to arrested K-mob, urges government to be soft on who they call misguided boys. Chief Minister Bommai openly declares his wish to return as the Karnataka Chief Minister. Even as the BJP is yet to announce a CM face for the upcoming polls, Bommai declares, "I will return." Political war erupts over holiday in Parliament for Ugadi and Gudi Padwa. Opposition slams the government over holiday, accuses it of appeasement politics, questions why Muslim holidays aren't declared as an off in Parliament. And daily COVID cases cross 1,000 mark for the second time this month. Prime Minister Modi chairs a key meet on preparedness. Let's get you a news break coming in on the showdown between the Collegium and the Centre on the appointment of judges. A fresh resolution has now been brought in, published by the Collegium, where the Collegium has asked the Centre to expedite pending appointments. The Collegium essentially has told the Centre not to overlook names that have been reiterated for appointment. Nalini Sharma, our legal editor, is with us on this broadcast. Nalini, good evening. Just break down for us exactly what the Collegium has said this time to the Centre.
So Akshita, these are fresh resolutions that have been published by the three-member Collegium of the Supreme Court regarding appointment of judges to certain high courts. And what they've said is that there were several names that have been reiterated earlier that have been ignored by the Centre, which has adversely impacted the seniority of the judges in which they are appointed. And this is a matter of grave concern. So keeping this in mind, the Collegium told the Centre that the names that were reiterated earlier need to be appointed first. The Centre needs to expedite these appointments and clear the names as early as possible so that the seniority is not impacted. And that's why this Collegium has written to the Centre asking them to take a note of this, the directions being issued by the Centre, and clear the names as early as possible.
All right, Nalini, thanks for that update. I'm cutting straight across right now to the Padma Awards that are underway in the national capital.
पद्म पुरस्कार से सम्मानित किए जाने वाले व्यक्तियों में विशिष्ट क्षेत्र में उत्कृष्टता नहीं, अपितु उत्कृष्टता से भी अधिक योगदान की अपेक्षा की जाती है। और ये सभी बातें इन पुरस्कारों की महत्ता को, इनकी अहमियत को दर्शाती हैं। अलग-अलग क्षेत्रों में वर्षों तक साधना, तपस्या, निस्वार्थ सेवा के द्वारा योगदान जिन व्यक्तियों ने दिए हैं, उनके लिए आज का ये दिन बेहद खास, बहुत ही विशिष्ट अवसर। वर्षों तक जिन्होंने शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में, समाज सेवा के क्षेत्र में, प्रशासनिक कौशल के दृष्टिकोण से अपना योगदान दिया है, उन सभी को आज माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया द्वारा अलंकृत किया जाएगा। 2 पद्म विभूषण, 4 पद्म भूषण और 46 पद्मश्री अलंकरण प्रदान किए जाने हैं आज। पद्म पुरस्कार अलंकरण समारोह का आज ये पहला चरण है, जिसका आयोजन राष्ट्रपति भवन के भव्य दरबार हॉल में हो रहा है। दरबार हॉल, जो कि राष्ट्रपति भवन के भव्यतम हॉल्स में से एक है, ऐतिहासिक गतिविधियां अपने दामन में समेटे हुए 42 फुट ऊंची इसकी दीवारें, जो कि सफेद संगमरमर से सजी हुई हैं, और ठीक बीचों बीच 33 मीटर की ऊंचाई वाला एक अति सुंदर बेल्जियम कांच का।
So we're getting you the live images right now from the national capital of the Padma Awards ceremony, which will be beginning any moment now. The president is expected to arrive there. You can already see that the presidential guard is making their way in. President Draupadi Murmu expected in there, and of course there's a lot of excitement, as is the case every year for the Padma Awards this time. Just to get you some of the highlights of who will be receiving the awards this time. All right, before that, let's cut across live.
माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया, आपकी आज्ञा हो तो आज पद्मा पुरस्कार 2023 के इस अलंकरण समारोह की कार्यवाही आरंभ की जाए। थैंक यू।
पद्मा विभूषण प्रोफेसर बालकृष्ण दोषी मरणोपरांत उनकी पौत्री सुश्री खुशनू पंत की हूफ वास्तु कला।
श्री सोमनहल्ली मलय कृष्ण, लोक कार्य।
पद्म भूषण श्री कुमार मंगलम बिरला। श्रीमती सुमन कल्याणपुर कला गायन।
इसके साथ
प्रोफेसर कपिल कपूर साहित्य एवं शिक्षा। श्री कमलेश दी पटेल अध्यात्म। पद्मश्री श्रीमती जोधाइयाबाई बायगा चित्रकला।
So those were the awardees this year of the Padma Bhushan and the Padma Vibhushan. We'll of course continue getting you all the highlights from the ceremony that's underway in the national capital. Here on 6 p.m. Prime, we were focusing on 3 big stories that we're talking about. Let's tell you about the one that's playing out in the national capital. The face-off between the AAP and the BJP over posters that have been put up across Delhi in some of the most bustling locations of the national capital. The posters you see on your screens were put up, many of them removed. Now it was deemed as illegal posters, because of which over 130 FIRs were filed. What's this about? We tell you in this report.
Modi hatao, Desh bachao. Remove Modi, save the nation. These posters have cropped up overnight across Delhi, put up at some of the most bustling locations of the national capital. 6 people have been arrested. Over 130 FIRs registered over these posters. Why? Because they are apparently illegal. With no mention of the printing press or the publisher mentioned, these posters have been deemed illegal. But what explains a whopping 130 FIRs over these posters? Is the anger over the posters being illegal or over the anti-Modi slogan written?
Posters put up by Aam Aadmi Party calling people to remove PM Modi from his office have triggered police action in which 6 people have been arrested. Police has clarified that cases have been filed against people for defacing public property and for not mentioning printing press name on these posters. However, Aam Aadmi Party has described this action as peak of dictatorship in the country and said slogan Modi Hatao, Desh Bachao would be the clarion call of the party in upcoming Lok Sabha polls.
According to police sources, orders for a total of 1 lakh posters were given to 2 printing presses. But even as questions loomed over who pasted these posters, the Aam Aadmi Party took ownership and they are all set to hit the streets with the Modi Hatao, Desh Bachao message.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग तो मुख्यमंत्री के खिलाफ तमाम तरह के आपत्तिजनक पोस्टर लगाते रहते हैं। मैंने नहीं सुना दिल्ली पुलिस ने एक भी एफआईआर दर्ज किया हो। अगर देश के प्रधानमंत्री अगर देश के लोगों की आकांक्षाओं को पूरा करने में फेल हो रहे हैं तो इस देश से लोगों की आवाज उठ रही है कि अगर इसका समाधान अब एक ही बचा है कि मोदी हटाओ और देश बचाओ।
ये शुद्ध रूप से बदरंगी विरासत की हुड़दंगी सियासत है और जब बदरंगी विरासत हुड़दंगी सियासत में उतर जाएगी तो इसी तरह के बहके बहके बेसुरे बेहुदा काम करेगी। आपको याद होगा इन 9 सालों में ये मोदी हटाओ का नारा लगाते लगाते आज पूरी तरह से इनके सूपड़े साफ हो रहे हैं। ये कहते हैं मोदी हटाओ, जनता कहती है मोदी लाओ।
The Congress too has questioned why these anti-Modi posters have been pulled down and the multiple FIRs filed in the case.
आवाज सब तरफ से आ रही है और वो आवाज ये है कि इस सरकार को जाना चाहिए। तो ये पॉलिटिकल स्लोगन्स है। अगर लोकतांत्रिक ढंग से हटाने की बात हो, अगर संविधान के अनुसार हटाने की बात हो, बैलेट से हटाने की बात हो तो इस नारे में कोई बुराई नहीं है।
Is the illegal poster a mere excuse to take down the anti-Modi messages from the streets of Delhi? Are 130 plus FIRs for merely posters being put up warranted? With Rahul Gautam, Bureau Report, India Today.
And let's get you the first reaction coming in from Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on this poster fight. The Aam Aadmi Party has taken ownership of these posters, and amid that, Arvind Kejriwal has questioned what exactly is it that Narendra Modi, that Prime Minister Modi is so scared of. He's asking if the Prime Minister is so insecure that now because of a poster, over 100 FIRs have been filed. Let's play out for you what Kejriwal said.
उस पोस्टर पे एफआईआर कर दी तो मोदी जी इतने डरे हुए क्यों हैं, इतने इनसिक्योर क्यों है यार? ये तो नॉर्मल सा पोस्टर है, कोई लगा ले, जनतंत्र के अंदर कोई लगा ले। इतने डरा हुआ प्रधानमंत्री, इतना इनसिक्योर प्रधानमंत्री, जिसको मर्जी मुझे लगता है सुबह उठ के सोचते हैं कि आज बस किस किस को जेल में डालना है, इसको जेल में डाल दो, इसको जेल में डाल दो, इसको जेल में डाल दो।
So this is a story we'll continue to track very closely and get you all the latest reactions. That's all we have time for in this edition of 6 p.m. Prime. Thank you for tuning in.
The protests that we saw in London clearly cannot be seen as freedom of expression or right to protest if goons are smashing window panes and targeting Indian officials, desecrating the Indian flag. What do you make of the inaction of the British government?
Well, firstly, I think it's very premature to call the Khalistani protesters a group. They've clearly been involved in terrorist activities in the past. They have bombed a plane, the Kanishka bombing. They have assassinated an Indian prime minister. They've assassinated one of the chief ministers of Punjab. So they are clearly a terrorist group. Secondly, if you look at embassies here in London, when there was an inkling that Hong Kong citizens might protest in front of the Chinese embassy, the UK government sent hordes of policemen to completely barricade the entire embassy and, protect them from Hong Kong civilians. But when it came to the Indian High Commission, it's been repeatedly attacked by Khalistanis in the past, including on Republic Day and Independence Day. But when this protest happened also, the police took a really long time to appear. And when they did not come in riot gear to disperse the crowd. So you can clearly see that there's been a clear double standard in the way the British government has been responding to threats against the Indian High Commission and the Chinese embassy. Like, this is just one case.
Okay.
But the double standard does exist. And, the fact that an Indian High Commission staff
No, you
had
spoke
to
of
actually
the
go
double
out and take
standards.
back the flag.
Ambassador Sibal, what do you make of the failure of the British government in protecting the Indian High Commission? And, as Rashmi was also correctly pointing out, this hasn't happened for the first time, sir.
Well, this hasn't happened for the first time. And even now, although they are promising they will look after our mission security, there is no assurance that they will actually take serious steps because they have not identified who the perpetrators of this incident vandalism were. If you look at the statement of Lord Ahmed or the Mayor of London, they are simply condemning this and say that we'll provide protection to the mission, but they don't say which were the groups.
True.
And they have not said anything about trying all those who were responsible, punishing them before law.
Why Rana Naidu?
Why Rana Naidu, as in why the title or why this show?
Yeah, why the title around Rana Daggubati? They've somehow managed to retain your maiden name. I can imagine, maybe because of the popularity you have.
No, I actually thought it was a working title for the longest time. So this usually happens in Telugu. Every time we have a script and they don't have a character's name, they just use...
They put the actor's name, the number of the film and keep going.
Keep going, right? I thought it's one of those till it didn't. It was real. So it's very meta for me in many, many ways, this show.
It's also just a powerful name. It can't get better than that.
Yeah, we just wanted a very something that was set a high standard, very exalted. And I just looked up and there's Rana at 6'3". I was like, let's just call it Rana.
As expected. But whose idea was it to name it Rana Naidu?
Rana.
Oh, no.
His contract said if the show is not called Rana.
I'm not on board.
Supan, being the docile guy, would have said, okay, I agree with what you say.
I think I'd say 90% I believe what Rana is saying. Because I saw you off
6 foot 4, mouth of a man. When he talks, we listen.
No, but Ray Donovan, that's almost the character that you've essayed to perfection in this series. We see that the series now is on the top of the top 10 list on Netflix. How difficult was it for Rana to essay that character, which was so well received by the masses?
See, this is the first time I'm doing a show, anything long form, anything beyond 2.5 hours. This was the first time I got it. It was much more harder than I thought it was because I just never understood.
A very warm welcome. You're watching our special show on World Water Day, our show called The Drops of Change. Truly today, billions of people around the world lack adequate access to one of the essential elements of life, and that's clean water. Although governments and aid groups have helped many living in water-stressed regions gain access in recent years, the problem is projected to get a lot more worse due to global warming and population growth. The issue of water scarcity demands immediate attention and collaborative efforts from governments alike, NGOs, businesses and individuals. Various fields that we could shed light on, the causes, the consequences, solutions to the water crisis. And to tell us a little more, we have Mr. Rajesh Sharma, CMD of Ion Exchange. He is here to give us some insights on what kind of work they do. Mr. Vishwanath Shrikantaya, who's also a water expert, joining us. Mr. Kapil Kaul, who's the advisor CSR and sustainability at JK Paper Limited and Umang Dairy Limited. And also Miss Vinny Mahajan, who's also joining us, who's the Secretary, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation. We also have Mr. Prahlad Singh Patel, Minister of State, Jal Shakti. Thank you very much, our panelists, for joining us here today. And let's first listen in to the Minister of State himself, Jal Shakti Minister, Mr. Prahlad Singh Patel, for the opening comments. Sir, बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका प्रहलाद जी वर्ल्ड वाटर डे पर हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए।
मैं वाटर डे की शुभकामनाओं के साथ आपका भी धन्यवाद करता हूं कि आपने इस अच्छे विषय पर समसामयिक कार्यक्रम रखा है। बधाई आपको।
जी प्रहलाद जी, ग्लोबल वाटर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स में भारत 122 देशों की सूची में 120 नंबर पर अब है। जल संकट झेल रहे टॉप 20 शहरों में 4 हमारी ही शहर है, तो देश में जल संकट पर आप क्या कहेंगे?
मुझे लगता है कि सरकार ने जिस प्रकार जब मोदी जी जब से प्रधानमंत्री बने, मैं 5 चीज़ें ही कहता हूँ। अमृत सरोवर, डिसिल्टिंग ऑफ तालाब, बांध जो कभी हुए नहीं, इसको रिलीजियसली करने का उन्होंने तय किया। पर उन्होंने कहा है कि कैच द रेन, कि हम पानी, बरसात के पानी को रोकें, तभी ये हो सकता है। नदियों का संरक्षण या संवर्धन तो गंगा मिशन स्टार्ट किया, लेकिन गंगा सिर्फ गंगा के लिए नहीं है, देश की सभी नदियों के लिए है। तो मुझे लगता है, और चौथी जो सबसे बड़ी बात होती है कि अगर हमने पानी ज़मीन के भीतर पहुंचाया तो फिर हम शायद आने वाली पीढ़ी को बेहतर कर पाएंगे। और ये जो थीम है, ये थीम अगर कोई पुरातन थीम है तो वो भारतीय संस्कृति में है। हम उपनिषद कहें या ब्रह्मसूत्र कहें, उसमें लिखा है कि अगर पिता कहता था कि मैं कष्ट भोगने के लिए तैयार हूँ, लेकिन मेरी संतान सुखी होनी चाहिए। ये है मूल प्रवृत्ति जो प्रकृति के अनुरूप काम करने की प्रेरणा देती है।
Lovely. You know, Mr. Rajesh, we are so grateful that you are taking this initiative of discussing the ways forward. As we know, as of now, a unique United Nations conference is currently on water and the ways to preserve it, and that's happening in New York. That's uniting the world for water. Why is this platform being called a once-in-a-generation opportunity in your view?
Well, you know, this conference is basically happening because of the almost every country has agreed to implement SDG goals by 2030. And among them, SDG 6 is about water and sanitation for everyone. And this is a big task for every country, and this has to be completed by 2030. So the idea of this conference is basically to accelerate the agenda, how this can be achieved. One is my intention to have water everywhere.
Yes.
But I must have water.
Yeah.
So there is a big gap also that many countries are facing the water stress.
Yeah.
And the way our population is growing and the industrialization is taking place, by 2050, the difference between supply and demand will be about 50%. That means 50% people will not get water. That is the kind of crisis we are facing. That's why this conference is very important in terms of deciding agenda, how are we going to meet this challenge.
Well, it's going to be a Herculean task, and we know that. If I could cut across to Winnie, who joins us too. Winnie, we know that contaminated water has quite a lot of health hazards, but as per Niti Aayog, by 2050, our GDP's health could also fall by a whopping 6% and due to this same water crisis. What do you have to say with that regard?
So we all know about the correlation between clean water and health. And we know that these outbreaks and these health hazards have a huge impact on productivity. They result in loss of working time. People have to go for treatment, and that leads to economic costs. And there is a huge connect with infant mortality as well. So the Nobel laureate, Professor Michael Kramer, in a very recent study across countries, has brought out the importance of clean drinking water on infant mortality rates and said that just that one intervention of providing clean drinking water can lead to as much as 25% reduction in IMR, and estimated that the Jal Jeevan mission, for instance, in India, on its completion, has the potential to save 136,000 infant lives every year. So this is the kind of impact we're looking at, and therefore the whole economy and health of society is linked to clean drinking water. We are making huge efforts in trying to ensure that the water we provide through functional tap connections is clean, and even as water treatment plants, chlorinators, etc. are being installed, a huge effort is underway to make sure that water is tested. We've set up across rural India in all states, districts, and below also, over 2,000 water testing laboratories so that the community understands where the quality of water is moving and takes steps to redress it.
All right, Vishwanath, to you, it's really good that the government is finally realizing the seriousness of water conservation, the issue that needs to be taken seriously and required steps that need to be taken towards it. But in your view, what's really causing that water scarcity in India?
So here's what's happening. India gets about 4,000 billion cubic meters of rainwater annually, and that has been more or less steady over years. But as the minister pointed out, it's increasing demand and increasing pollution, which is putting pressure on our scarce water resources. We essentially have 4 taps to draw into when it comes to water. There is rainwater, there is surface water in our lakes, streams, rivers and ponds, there's groundwater, which is in our aquifers, and the 4th one is used water. That is wastewater as it was called, but it's now called used water. So these 4 taps are there for almost all cities in India. There's a 5th tap, which is seawater. Through desalinization, we can bring the 5th tap into play. And for all these 5 taps, we have a control on the tap itself, which is literacy and community action and community behavior. So we need to synergize our actions to manage these 4 taps wisely with the help of the state and with the help of the community. And in that condition, we will not have any water scarcity.
Well, with that, we're surely looking forward, and let's hope we adapt to those steps. But Kapil, we know that a continuing water shortage really worsens water pollution levels too. So industries are one of the important causes of water crisis, as we know. How are people like you taking those stern steps towards curbing water waste and pollution?
Our consumption of water per cubic meter of water for per ton of production has come down by 66%. Today, our company is amongst the least users of water per ton of manufactured paper. Now, how has this come about? This has come about by grounding our ESG policy in water management, because paper happens to be one of the industries which uses extensive water. So one of our key interventions has been including technology, upgrading technology, including technology in water management. So our investments in our expansion and our investments in our manufacturing have largely gone towards conservation of water, so which is reducing water. Then there was mention of recycle and reuse. There is no water which is just thrown as wastewater. Every drop of water that is consumed by us is then recycled and reused. From an organized industry's point of view, I think water management is at the very core of industry's priorities, and I am confident that all other industries will contribute towards this and put their best investment in water use and management.
Yeah, I'm sure. Mr. Rajesh, we do understand that it is eventually a man-made disaster. We can't escape that fact. And there is a mismatch between demand as well as supply, as well as inequality in the distribution of water itself due to lack of organized water systems in India. How, in your view, can we correct that part with effective, efficient technology interventions?
Deployment of technology can save a lot in terms of right from metering, smart metering, to leakages in the distribution lines where non-revenue water is being lost, so much of treated water is being lost, that can be arrested. So one side, we need to increase the availability of fresh water, meticulously conserve the use for specific applications only, and then look at the alternate source, which is water which is already used, that is wastewater. So we as a company started in 90s talking about recycle of water. We started talking and educating the builders.
Yeah.
You know how in the household, 70% of water can be recycled and reused.
Wow.
So in the buildings, you know, the toilet waste from the WC and the bathing water,
Yeah.
both can be segregated if there are separate lines to collect water, treated, and can be used for gardening, toilet flushing, car washing, everything.
That's amazing.
So you can save 70% of fresh water, which is going in the house. So to answer your question, what we require is a sustainable, holistic water management.
Yeah. That's the end goal. Absolutely. You know, Winnie, to you, how can we really stop water wastage taking place in agricultural practices and household activities?
Even though we find that we are now moving towards a stable population, but our growing economy will definitely need more water going forward. And therefore, it is imperative that we make our agriculture use water more efficiently. There are large number of programs underway, more crop per drop, better irrigation practices, and better crops, cropping patterns, and so on. We should make sure that as a country, we not only reuse but also treat water and help in ensuring the safe recharge of groundwater. So the wastewater can be used in multiple ways, but the most important ones are through treatment and reuse, whether in industry or other purposes, through safe recharge by making soak pits. We are hugely promoting, especially under the Swachh Bharat mission, the construction of soak pits in households, at communities, and trying to ensure that the wastewater is treated, reused, recycled. We need to move from a linear economy to a circular economy, recognizing the very powerful role that water will play in our lives.
You know, Kapil, how do industries find the balance really between economical production practices and effective measures of water treatment and discharge?
In every investment that you make in the industry, there is a return on investment cycle. So we find that there is a reasonable return on cycle in any investment that you make. For example, I'll tell you, we made an investment in 2014-15, 12-13, and it took us about 4 or 5 years to generate the return on investment. So today, after making that investment, we are a highly profitable company, and so the same is the case, because you have to understand that industry does not get water free.
Yeah,
it is a cost to them. So for industry, therefore, to factor water as an input cost is critical, and therefore when they factor water as a critical cost, it is there. The other point, the other thing that I like to draw your attention to is that, you know, we function, any manufacturing location, we function in a certain environment, social environment. So our social outreach also enables us to create water sources for the community.
True. Fantastic.
So it's a big virtuous cycle. So, you know, when we look at that, there are of course business costs, but there are also social advantages to that. So industry takes a very comprehensive point of view on that, and that is how industry would proceed on this.
You know, it's truly satisfying and encouraging that there are industries and people like you coming together to really make this happen. This crisis is real. At least we've woken up to it, you know, but we're going to slip into a short break on that. We'll be right back to discuss the ways forward right after a short break. To stay with us.
Unseasonal downpour is raining misery on farmers in Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. The rains have damaged standing crop. There were already fears that the heat wave before the rains could result in shriveled grains, which means a drop in the yield.
बेमौसम बारिश हुई है, उसके साथ जो ओलावृष्टि हुई है, उससे आप देख रहे हैं सारी फसलें गिर गई हैं और 50% फसलों में नुकसान है.
2 days of rains have increased worries for the farmers in Bhadohi district in Uttar Pradesh. The farmers fear they might even lose their entire wheat crop.
गेहूं की फसल पूरा गिर गई, अभी गेहूं पका भी नहीं था, उसमें अब आशा नहीं है कि फिर गेहूं होगा.
4-6 दिन में गेहूं कटने वाले थे, सब माने रुक गए. गेहूं की फसल बहुत बर्बाद हो गई है और सब गिर गया, लौट गया है तो दाना कम निकलेगा.
The Uttar Pradesh government has asked officials to conduct field surveys and give affected farmers adequate compensation. In Rajasthan's Bundi district, a farmer allegedly died by suicide by consuming insecticide. Prithviraj Berwa, who was running a debt of around 8 lakh rupees, suffered a huge setback after his crop was damaged by heavy rainfall. Bureau Report, India Today.
Business Today Television, I have with me HMSI's MD, President and CEO, Mr. Rogata. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
So last time we spoke, you were actually really excited about this launch, the entry-level segment. Now, what are your expectations and how will it sort of be able to compete in a market which you know is sort of dominated by Hero?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. We are proud to announce this model today. And yes, now the rural market, still the biggest volume among the total industry of motorcycle. But of course, last 3 years, also the one of the reason is COVID pandemic negative impact still there. But still, market potential, we have confidence in the future for the 3 years. After we launch this model, so many customers has take another option in front of, because now almost dominated by our competitors. So now they can take another decision making by themselves. So we have confidence gradually, because after the getting awareness, growth of this model Shine 100cc in rural market through our dealer network, it's getting bigger demand will become, then we are ready to supply enough supply in front of consumers who are waiting our new product. Yeah.
So there was another product in the rural market which I believe was Levo. And what are some of the learnings from that product which you think that this time you will get it right?
Yeah, so far we have planned to new Levo, they comply with the OBD2 norm sooner or later in the market, was CD110, still existing in the market. So the compete with different segment, because looks like same, but price range and model specification is completely different. So we can create the new demand in such kind of rural market beside Levo CD 110. The next financial year, surely. Yeah.
Will sales and network expansion be a challenge for you going forward?
Do you mean the touch point?
Yeah, rural touch point.
Rural touch point. Yes, the some of area, because of such kind of a product, it's tough to create the touch point in several areas, especially central or north region. But now start to discuss the main dealers to set up new touch point after launching this model as soon as possible. So therefore, next financial year, surely the rapidly increase of our touch point in such kind of rural area inside of central, especially and the north region.
Last time we met, you also talked about the premium segment and how you sort of, you know that globally you have great products, but in India you sort of need that penetration. So what will it take to reach that level of growth even in the Indian market?
Premium segment, you mean the 300cc segment? Yeah, we launched Highness and the CB350 LS, and recently we expanded the customized version, to utilize the existing platform.
Welcome back to the second part of our panel discussion here on water crisis. It's quite clear now that this issue certainly requires urgent action and at possibly all levels. प्रहलाद जी, पेरिस, लंदन जैसे यूरोपीय शहरों में जल संकट और प्रदूषण से निपटने के लिए कई कदम उठाए गए हैं वहाँ पर। भारत में हालात की गंभीरता पर सरकार यहाँ पर क्या कदम उठा रही है?
देखिए, पेरिस रेजोल्यूशन का सबने पालन किया है, हमने भी उसका पालन किया है और उसका परिणाम दिखने भी लगा है। सूरत है, नागपुर है, सीवेज के पानी को ट्रीट करने के बाद में इंडस्ट्री ने लेना शुरू किया है। सिर्फ आय का साधन नहीं है, सवाल है कि अगर हम चाहे वो स्पंज लोहे के हमारे उद्योग हों, चाहे चमड़े के उद्योग हों, जहाँ पर ज़्यादा पानी लगता है, अगर वो रॉ वाटर निकालते तो पीने लायक पानी ही है ना। तो उस पानी का जितना कमतर उपयोग वहाँ पर हो, हमारी जो भारतीय तकनीकें हैं उनसे हम ग्रे वाटर मैनेजमेंट भी कर सकते हैं, रिचार्जिंग भी कर सकते हैं। अटल भूजल की तरह के योजना के तहत जो हमारे ड्राई ब्लॉक्स हैं, बरसात का पानी उसके भीतर डाल सकते हैं। मैं सिर्फ एक आग्रह जरूर करूंगा आपके माध्यम से आज के दिन कि मैं ये कहता हूं कि जितना पानी एक व्यक्ति वर्ष भर में उपयोग करता है, अगर वो बरसात का पानी उतना जमीन के भीतर अपने प्रयासों से डाल दे तो हम अपनी आने वाली पीढ़ी के साथ न्याय करेंगे।
जी, you know, we heard what the minister had to say, Vishwanath, but as much as the government says that it's taking measures with that regard, do we really see that ecosystem in our country where we regenerate, reuse water for sustainable future?
For sure, yes. I think we are in the era of positive change, and I'll give you examples.
Yeah.
In the city of Bangalore, it's now mandatory as per the building bylaws for every site to harvest 60 millimeters of rain falling on the rooftop. This takes into consideration climate change effects, the change in rainfall intensity and rainfall patterns. So policies and bylaws are pushing citizens for good behavior and making sure sustainability occurs because of that. Second example, lakes of Bangalore, the famous lakes of Bangalore, are being cleaned up thanks to pressure from activists, from the judiciary and from citizens.
Yeah.
And the government is now pitching in and cleaning up many of these lakes. These lakes are also being filled with treated wastewater. This will mean the treated wastewater will provide livelihoods to 64,000 farmers, will recharge the aquifers in these dry districts, will regenerate the environment and economy and ecology of that area, plus provide food security to the city. The ideal concept of circular economy.
No, we have stalwarts like you, contributing to this cause and relentlessly working towards it. But gentlemen, we're really short on time here. But surely we'll take your closing remarks. I'd like to come to you once again in about 20 seconds. If you could take us the way forward for this crisis. Prahlad ji, आप पहले.
हाँ, निश्चित रूप से मैं इसी को कहूँगा कि प्रकृति के साथ जीने की आदत डालिए तो पीढ़ियाँ भी आनंद में रहेंगी। अगर प्रवृत्ति के साथ जिएंगे तो खुद का जीवन भी शायद आसानी से नहीं चल पाएगा।
Mr. Rajesh, you're CMD of Ion Exchange. Your take on what could be done with immediate effect?
I think the most important thing is to create awareness that there is a big problem. Second is to involve the community. So there is a mindset needs to change that this is a limited resource, need to be used judiciously to conserve fresh water for our future generations.
Let me take that with Vinny as well. Vinny, would you want to come in on that, a way forward for us at this point?
I think we are all mindful of the issue. It's just that we don't always think about how to tackle it. And I hope that every individual household, but most importantly communities, rural and urban, will use this opportunity to think through what is their status around water, what is the availability that they see, how are they using it, are they using it in an optimum and efficient manner, and how can they promote the circular economy around water going forward.
Lovely. Mr. Kapil, your take on that?
And I think what is needed is to mobilize the public for behavior change towards better water use. Policy actions will not bear fruit unless and until it is implemented at the ground level.
So, we've got to value it in the first place. You have people, experts like all of you, trying so hard to preserve it, but it's for the masses to respect it and value it. Vishwanath?
Climate change is about carbon when it comes to emissions, but its impact is on water. Water will feel the heat of climate change. Therefore, we have to focus on equity, ecology, and economy. Equity, some water for all. make sure that there is social justice with water. Ecology, we need to protect the environment so that the resource is protected. Economy, we have to realize that water is a human right, but also an economic good. And so therefore, we'll have to bridge both these aspects, for which Samaj, Sarkar and Bazaar, community, state, and the market will have to align themselves structurally, and the government should provide that framework to make sure that water is sustainable and equitous.
All right, fantastic. Such pleasure and very insightful talking to all of you. Our experts here have truly emphasized the need for a collaboration between governments, NGOs, businesses, individuals to address this crisis here. Let's all now commit to join hands, work towards a sustainable future where water is available for each one of us. Thank you all for being part of this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.